Yeah, if anyone else is recording, but there's no one else up there, please notify the chair. We'll do introduction. I'll start. My name is George Tolumpsis. I'm the planning board representative to this committee, and I'm the vice chair. And for the delegation of the chair, I facilitate the meetings. Go around this way.
Nancy Hazard, and then member at large.
John Garrett, I'm the city council representative.
Hannah, you're next. So big.
I'm Hannah Rexhoffen. I'm a member at large. Sorry for not being there in person.
No, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Jonah Keene, member at large.
Amy Kaling, Director of Community and Economic Development for the city and not a member.
Mary Chickwin, public member and chair.
I'm Lori Scarborough, Senior Transportation Planning Engineer at Franklin Regional Council of Governments, and here as a guest.
Excellent.
Very nice. And I'll just mention, as far as other member. Oh, hey.
Are you recording?
Yes.
Oh, you, thank you.
We had just finished introductions. You can pull up if you want.
Pull up the chair.
Oh, we just started.
Good. All right, we're recording. I don't even know where to look. I haven't been in the room in a while. Hello, everybody. I'm Greta Schwachman, Food Service Director for Greenfield Public Schools and the Youth Representative.
Thank you. Eric had indicated he wouldn't be able to make this meeting. Francoise, who is newly sworn in, is out of the country, can't make the meeting. Carol might come to the latter part of the meeting because she hadn't realized the new schedule timing. And Marlo is possibly, but we're not sure. It might come in via Zoom at some point. Okay, very good. So on to the next agenda item is the Franklin County Bike Plan. And we have slotted 10 minutes for your presentation and 10 minutes for Q&A.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm here with a brief presentation, probably won't take full 10 minutes, just to fill everyone in on what we're working on, which is an update to the Franklin County Regional Bike Plan. We've been doing outreach to as many standing committees around the county as we can, just to get as much varied input as we can. It's been quite a while since we updated the first iteration of the Regional Bike Plan. So we want to make sure we get a lot of feedback from as many diverse voices as possible. So
What was the date of the last one?
next slide. Spoilers. It was 2009. And that's where I'm going to start, is that the original Franklin County Bike Plan was actually called the Bikeway Plan, and it was primarily focused on creating a Franklin County bikeway, identifying potential routes to comprise a connected network throughout Franklin County. And we've been pretty successful with that. The last step of implementation is to put up wayfinding signs on the entire route, and that is on schedule to take place this spring. The signs should be going in this spring. The bulk of the route, the central part of the Franklin County bike route, centered in Greenfield, has already been signed. It's been signed for several years. I think in 2015 was when those signs started going up. So folks in the Greenfield area are probably familiar with the signs, but this will expand the wayfinding into eastern and western parts of Franklin County. So that was the original goal. And so now with this update, our goal is to plan for a comprehensive and a holistic transportation system that encourages accessible biking wherever possible. To do that by recognizing, the plan intends to do that by recognizing and supporting bicycling for recreation, for physical fitness, and just as part of sustainable transportation system. And to do that, we'll take a comprehensive look at bicycling in all its aspects of our lives in Franklin County as an integral part of the transportation network. And although we have, as I said, been pretty successful with the first 3 phases with the Franklin County Bikeway, we're also looking at exploring possible expansions of that bikeway network and making more connections, particularly connecting to our neighboring counties and states. And also the plan will take a look back at the success and at the improvements that have been made since the 2009 plan was completed, and also taking forward-looking vision as to what we want to see Franklin County look like as far as incorporating biking and making it as accessible to as many folks as possible. soon.
Sorry,
So,
can you excuse me just for a second?
Sure.
So Marla, I
Oh, please.
apologize, I never do that, but
No,
Marla's trying to get on the meeting
okay.
and he's having trouble. Hannah, could I ask you what link you used to get onto the meeting? Did you find it on the city calendar?
Yes.
Okay, that's the one he said is not working for some
Oh.
reason. Okay, I apologize. That's why I was
Sure.
distracted.
Oh, no.
I've suggested he try to call in, but I don't know where.
Maybe Hannah, you could put it in the, or email it to him rather?
He has it. Yeah, I just sent it.
It's not working.
Oh, you did?
He said
Yeah.
he's taking the link right off the calendar and it's not working.
Oh.
Wow, that's strange.
Yeah,
Try it again.
Hmm.
My user
I'm
practice.
sorry to be distracted.
Oh,
I'm
that's
just trying to
okay.
get him on.
Yeah.
I suggested he do that, yeah. Okay.
All right, so as I said, one of the first things we're doing is taking a look back at what the goals were of the original 2009 plan. And that was primarily to establish the bikeway routes to connect the existing central part of the Franklin County Bikeway to the outlying areas, to identify any infrastructure needs that were necessary to make those connections, to look at other employment centers and residential areas and making, looking at what the bike accommodations were and where they could be improved. So there's still work to do on that. Connecting bikeway routes with public transit and park and ride lots to make it sort of seamless connection between modes. To identify and implement measures to improve safety for bicyclists on any roadways. To establish off-road bikeway routes connecting schools with residential areas to make safe travel routes for younger riders. Franklin County bikeway routes connecting with neighboring counties and states. We do have some good connection with the tri-state bike route where the Franklin County Bikeway overlaps with Vermont and New Hampshire bike routes in Northfield, obviously. Providing information and resources to encourage tourism opportunities related to bicycling throughout the county. There's been a big expansion of that since 2009 and really is one of the primary sort of tourism draws to Franklin County now. And to increase the number of trips made by bicycle for transportation and recreation purposes. And that increases every year, although it is hard to calculate sometimes. So I want to highlight a few recent projects, as in, yeah, that's great. Yeah. He's one of our bikeway models in the past. Yeah, just some projects that have been completed since 2009, and one of them, mentioned too many times, is the completion of the Franklin County Bikeway. Here's Garth on the bridge on Greenfield Road in Montague. This is the bridge that goes over the railroad, crucial link in the bikeway. And that was one of the main sort of construction parts of the bikeway project.
Which bridges?
Greenfield Road in Montague. So it's the road from Montague City Road, Avenue A up to Montague Center. So it's the road to the book mill.
And this is not.
Oh, the road, oh, that
connected to
road, okay.
He's,
Path that goes over the Connecticut.
no, this goes over the railroad. Yeah, there's,
I've never seen.
Yeah,
this.
where?
Oh, God, it's fantastic.
yeah.
Drop the
It's only-
pin.
it's
Where you had to walk
yeah.
down over the railroad.
It's a
tracks
bicycle and
before.
pedestrian bridge only, so it's not for motor vehicles. It's just for bikes and peds. So,
Yeah.
you might not, it's not a through route for cars anymore. So if you're not headed up there, but yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah, it's a gorgeous
Oh, I-
spot in the whole sort of meadow area in Montague Center and Sunderland. Yeah.
It used to be a car bridge.
Used to be a car
Yes.
bridge and they made a engineering mistake with the railroad and so
Yeah.
So the
very
bridge was
simply,
taken down
Yeah.
and then a lot of us walked our bikes over the railroad tracks
Okay.
and waited sometimes for the trains. And then-
It was a
Right.
bridge that was, I don't want to get too sidetracked, but it was a bridge that was owned by the railroad because it went over the railroad. And it kept getting hit by trains basically. And also the foundation was built on sand, so the vibrations, the bridge always needed repairs and the railroad said, forget it, we're not repairing this bridge anymore. So it was a lot of work to get a bike ped bridge there, so you could still have some sort of connectivity there. It's really nice. It's a really nice part of the bikeway. And as I said, the wayfinding signs that should be coming in the spring, and that will complete first 3 phases of the bikeway, which was really major for us. Let's see, what other recent projects? Yes. Promotional campaigns was something else that we worked on quite a lot. And the most recent 2 are our bike safety campaign. You may have seen posters or similar billboards. We had a couple billboards, one on Deerfield Street. this campaign kind of overlapped with the very beginning of the pandemic, so we didn't really get to implement it fully, which means we have a lot of extra posters. If you want to promote bicycle safety at any event, let us know. We have lots of these materials. Also, I don't have a slide for this, but a bike-friendly businesses campaign, which again, we started kind of really at the beginning of 2020, so it did not get the rollout that we anticipated, but we identified a lot of bike-friendly businesses, as in businesses that are accommodating to folks who arrive on bicycle or have amenities or services that are meaningful to someone who's traveling by bicycle, and a sort of identification campaign, like basically a sticker that businesses can put up. And so we are sort of re-kicking that off this spring, I think. So hopefully you'll start seeing that more as well. Okay. We have one more recent project. No, that was basically it for that. Yeah, so some other recent projects that overlap with the recommendations of the original plan are the participation of multiple Franklin County towns in the Massachusetts Complete Streets Funding Program, which provides funding for towns to implement infrastructure, mostly infrastructure improvements to accommodate all modes of transportation, primarily neglected modes, bicycling, pedestrians, and transit. So many towns in Franklin County have participated in the Complete Streets Funding Program and made some really excellent improvements.
Yep. I'm curious how many towns have not.
It's hard to say. I have to follow up on that. I think about half, honestly, have done it. It's maybe like 13 possibly, or at least taken the first steps, you know, so they may have not gotten to the implementation phase yet, but they've adopted a complete streets policy and started a complete streets plan. I know Greenfield has, yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm. And then other just sort of specific targeted projects that were identified as needs that have since been completed, including that multi-use path along Wisdom Way that goes up to the fairgrounds. That was a recommendation for whatever Wisdom Way was reconstructed, but that project involved a lot more than just that multi-use path, but it was sort of from advocacy that's what you got instead of like just a conventional sidewalk. It's much wider, it's separated from the roadway, and it makes a really important connection. Now, like people can come from downtown up to the fairgrounds without driving up there, which is great. Working with MassDOT, the plan is often referenced by our MassDOT partners. And so the bike lanes that have gone in on Route 5 and 10 when they do resurfacing and restriping, putting in bike lanes where appropriate. So Route 5 and 10 in Deerfield, Route 10 in Northfield, Sugarloaf Street in Deerfield, and many others smaller scale, like I wouldn't say smaller scale, but multi-use trail projects connecting between towns. We work a lot with our local towns to identify, locate rail trails and other places where they can make an off-road bicycling route. And then the final aspect of the plan is the plan update will be to identify future needs, and that's a big part of what we're asking for in this outreach. So future needs can include specific site locations, like as in Wisdom Way, better bike accommodation at this particular location, general improvements, like there should be more bike racks at bus stops, any sort of general improvements like that, and any ideas for future promotional or safety campaigns or initiatives. So age-friendly bike safety promotions, things like that. So we're really Amy, the next slide. So we're really wrapping up stage one, which is public input. All right. So here we are at the end of April. So the first phase has been gathering feedback through surveys. I shared with Mary before our links to our survey, and I have some postcards here for the folks in the room. And then the last slide is going to have the QR codes for the folks online. If you want to access the survey, there's a little bit more on that on the next slide. So if stage one is public input gathering, we have the surveys, we have an online interactive map. We've attended stakeholder meetings like this one, and we've done several just community presentations specifically about this bike plan update. So we're wrapping that up. And then we'll work into the drafting of the plan over the next few months with the goal of having a draft plan available for review. Maybe by July, definitely by September. So that's our plan. Our optimistic date is July, but we have to wrap it up by September. So if anyone is interested in seeing the draft plan before it's finalized to make comments, there will be a comment period where you can sort of see what we've come up with, let us know if anything is missing. We moving forward with the intent that anyone who's attended one of these presentations will be notified when the plan is available for review. So I'll definitely let y'all know that.
Will it be on your website?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if
If you
you,
send me a link, I'll just
Yeah.
send it out.
Thank you.
yeah, if you follow FERCog on Facebook, I'm sure there'll be something on there. But so, yeah, so this slide has the QR codes for the public survey. So one is just a Survey Monkey survey where you start answer questions about what kind of biking you do and what needs you see. And then the public input map is an interactive map where you can highlight specific locations and say what your concerns are. Like there's, not enough of a shoulder here. This is a great mountain biking trail over here. Any sort of positive, negative comments. There's a sort of a comment field there. So everyone here wants to take the survey. You can, I should say that, as I said, we're really at the final end of the public input phase. So if you do have comments, if you could submit those like as soon as possible. We kind of want to close the survey by the end of next week, I think. We kind of kept it open a little longer than some people wanted to, just because there's just a lot of places
So
to
the
go.
deadline of tomorrow is not a hard deadline.
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah, they reprinted these with the deadline. Originally, I think the deadline said March 30th and we extended it to April 26th. But if you want to take time to think about it over the weekend, you can. And then the final slide is just the thank you slide, and it has the contact email. Audrey Baraski and Jack Caroline are transportation planners at the FERCog who have they are the ones sort of running the survey. So if you find that the survey has been closed and you still have comments, send them to Audrey. Her email will not be closed, so you can email her anytime, but please do that as soon as possible if you do have some comments. And that's all I have. So, yeah.
Great.
Thank you. And is it possible to get a copy of these, this presentation?
Yeah, well, actually, Amy has it right now. So if she wants to make a copy of that,
Want me to just download it from?
is that, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
great.
that's
Thank you.
totally fine. Yeah.
Great. So we have, thank you very much. And so we have
I have time for
questions
questions.
or comments.
So we're in the process of, the Conway School was working on an update of the Sustainable Greenfield Master Plan, the land use and the natural resource, natural, cultural, and historic resource chapters. And part of that is some recommendations about a more lively downtown Greenfield. And there is one recommendation about improving and expanding pedestrian and bicycle access and public transportation downtown. So I don't know if you want to see there's just like 4 recommendations under that. If you want us to send
Oh,
those to
yeah.
you, and if you have any additional thoughts on those, we'd be glad to get
Absolutely.
your feedback on that. Like if you know that something's underway, or you really want to see us include something,
Yeah.
that you've been thinking about for Greenfield that we don't know about, that would be great to get.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. You probably know that city has in the beginning stages of developing the Complete Streets project for Main Street. So
Yeah.
we've been somewhat involved just in sort of like the road safety audit. We were part of the road safety audit team, so we've gotten some input on what's in the scope of that. Actually, I do know that MassDOT has initiated a project to be implemented somewhere down the line to continue that bike accommodation connections from where that Complete Streets project is slated to end, which is I think around Conway Street. This would be, so MassDOT has jurisdiction over the rest, or a good chunk of the rest of Main Street, is my understanding. So this would be a project to have bicycle accommodations from Conway Street to the Rotary. And then the Rotary has limited, but it does have sidewalk and shoulders around there. And then there's a project that has sort of just started. So if you're up on Mohawk Trail by Big Y, you may have seen they've started the work to install a traffic signal at Big Y. And that work is also going to include sidewalk and bike lane connections, basically just past Home Depot, I think is where sort of the limits of that. So that would be connection from High Street all the way up
Huh.
Route 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Hannah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for all of that. That was such great info. I was curious about the bike-friendly businesses stickers, and I'm the director of the GBA, the Greenfield Business Association, with my other hats on.
Okay.
And would love to help get those out to businesses or let them
Okay.
know where to get them. So as that comes back online, please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I got Hannah's contact information. I probably have. Or someone in my office has. Okay, yeah, definitely.
Comments, questions? Yes.
So I work in Hampshire County, and one of the things they have down there is a really extensive off-road bike network. It's all on old railroad rights of way and that sort of thing. And I know that, you know, it's a different planning organization, right? FERCog does Franklin County, and it's Pioneer Valley Planning Authority down there. But there's a lot of, like, you know, the off-road bikeways are going to be much more attractive for bicyclists who are frankly scared of traffic.
Mhm,
And so anything to make it so we can have more of those, I think would be fabulous.
mhm.
And especially a connection from Greenfield through Deerfield to that other network, because that would be huge.
Like a
Yeah.
bike from home to here. I live in East Hampton. I
Oh my God.
Right.
I used to live in
Yeah.
Southampton, right on the bike path,
Yeah.
that dumps it on routes 5 and 10. And to bike to Northampton was terrifying because, well,
Yeah,
for me,
yeah,
me as a scared biker.
On the road
On
there.
Route 5.
Yeah, I take
Instead
the
of going,
other
yeah.
path into, Northampton.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to get, you know, it's as shorter as the Wolf runs or.
Because people drive.
Yeah, and
Not
so
well.
any road that people are driving 50 miles or 40 miles or even
It doesn't feel safe.
30. It's like, even with like a painted bike lane, I would never call that protected.
Right.
You know, like I think calling it a protected or a separated bike lane is a fantasy, you know, like, no, it's and I'm sure you, yeah.
I
It's,
understand, yeah.
and so like, you know, you look at in Deerfield on routes 5 and 10, there's these beautiful bright green paints. And it still feels like death, you know, it's
Yeah.
whizzing by you every moment when you ride on it. My wife is a very cautious biker, and so she will not go on Main Street in this town because of the backing up of cars and the like. But likewise, like High Street, like I'll bike to Stop and Shop, because again, I'm willing to play with death. But she is not. And so it's one of those things where it's like, unless we're doing something to actually separate the bicyclists from the automobiles, there's not going to be the take up of bicycling in the town. And it's, again, it's, you know, it's also kind of funny to me that we have bike lanes in town that just end right when you get to downtown where you need them the very most. And yeah, again, I would love to see more connection to Hampshire County and its bike network. I would love to see actually separating the bike lanes, even if it's just like a plastic bollard, which like, you know, makes the driver see that there's like a separation. Because, you know, people swerve all over the place, like they're on their phone, they're doing whatever. And so anything to like scare them basically into having to pay attention would be fabulous. And then the other thing is, again, down in Hampshire and Camden County, they had the Valley Bike system. And
What's
that
happening with that?
apparently the.
Starting again,
Yeah.
so I was gonna ask you about this, because I talked to Beth and I've talked to Northampton to look into getting it in Franklin County.
I would love that.
Yeah,
And the company had gone bankrupt or something, they came back.
it went bankrupt, but there's a new company involved. Northampton is about to sign their contract with so they won't share yet who the new company is. But what they did tell me is that this company also has a spot in, first of all, that it's a very, they obviously love bikes. They love this area. They have a spot in New Haven where they do a bike share,
Okay.
and Northampton. And Carolyn Mission Northampton and I share a dream of having a bike share that's the length of the Connecticut River. So you could have Franklin County, Hampshire County, New Haven, Connecticut.
I actually have a hope and a dream this summer when school is out to take a bike trip from like Westfield down to New Haven, because we have friends down there, like take the train back.
Yeah.
Just because it would be a blast. And so anything to get us,
About that, I would love
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
especially if we actually protected from
Yeah.
real danger. You know?
Mhm.
But the train as well, I don't know if it's changed, but I was on it the first day, because I was so excited. The local train started up and it's not bike friendly. I work down that way as well. I was like, oh, just bike to the train down, bike to work.
I just assumed you could
No,
do it.
it's
It's like, no, you can. It costs $20
Paper.
to go to Northampton, $20 just for the
Just
bike,
the bike.
not your own ticket, and the $20 coming back for the bike. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is
See them
frustration.
Like,
Yeah.
people roll bikes onto it or whatever.
Right. They had a space for it and they
Yeah.
just charge you a ton. So it doesn't make it realistic.
Hmm.
Also, and as far as multimodal connection, I assume you're working some with the FRTA.
That's-
I know they've been putting in more bike racks at stops because
Mhm.
I many times experience I want to get on a bus and there's not a, the rack is filled on the front of the bus.
Mhm.
So I want to leave,
Yeah,
securely
bring it back.
leave my bike somewhere, take the bus and then come back and pick it up. And I know they're adding those. I didn't know how much there's a integration of efforts between FERCog and FRTA. But,
Yeah,
That's
we
good.
coordinate a lot with them, yeah, and, I think they are, I can't speak for them, but my understanding is that as they sort of, their goal is to make improvements to their bus stops with shelters and benches for everyone, because a lot of them are just, the bus stop is just a sign, so there's there's no shelter from the rain. And as the happen, yeah, that those improvements, all the ones I'm aware of, the intent is for they always to include bike racks as well. Yeah.
Would you go?
Yeah, I'll call myself just briefly again, two intercommunity things that I put on when I did the survey, and I know some other people have, is Turner's Falls Road.
Mhm.
Obviously is, and one thing I'll emphasize, that should be 30 miles an hour.
Mm.
It's, I can't remember exactly, it's about a
Mhm.
half mile. I do it at 30 miles an hour all the time when I'm in a car. You don't even notice the difference in time. I think it's 15 seconds. I think I calculated it.
Uh-huh. Oh, if you're
And
30 versus 40.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's no reason that should be 40 miles an hour. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because you got people, walking and you got people biking.
Yep.
And that would be, and it's incredibly difficult, with the terrain.
Yep.
I get that. You can't really expand it much, but you can alter behavior with some things like that. And so I think a lot of that for altering driver behavior is one of the keys to that. And the other is the connection between Greenfield and Old Deerfield. I tried to through the sustainable, no, what is it? The
CPC,
yeah, yeah.
community preservation.
Thank you. Try to get, and this is something that had been recommended by FERCog, over the years.
Yep.
To try to get an off-road connect, safe off-road connection, so that 3 miles, 5 and 10, which can't be expanded much either.
Nope.
And is really tough to have something to get off the roadway. It's
Right.
challenging, but to just emphasize that, because boy, for commuting, for bike tourism, for recreation, that would be a wonderful connection to a lot of, less trafficked roads down south as well. So.
okay, great, yeah. As far as, yeah, that's a good point, George. As far as, these are all the comments, I'm going to bring them in. A lot of we have heard before, but as far as the recommendations in the plan go, I think the more comments we get about the same location or the same issue, will help with prioritizing, so definitely, if you haven't done the survey already and put in these comments, go ahead and do that. I would sort of duplicate
Right.
what I'm bringing back in here. George just saw that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. I could say one of the future projects, Hannah raised your hand, but I'm going to just on the same topic here, of off-road connections between Franklin County and Hampshire County. I know that folks in Sunderland are working with folks at MassDOT to at the very beginning planning of implementing an off-road path from Sunderland basically to Route 9, possibly. I'm not sure like what the limits of that are. First, it was like from Route 47 to Route 9, and then it's like, no, it should go back all the way, across the bridge, at least to Sugarloaf Mountain. And then it's like, well, why shouldn't it go 5 and 10 to Route 9? So it just sounds like something that would happen in phases, and it's very preliminary, but that's something that I think that'll be one of the things that'll be in the plan that we'll be looking at supporting as they move forward with that.
John and then Hannah?
So just to, George mentioned bike racks and just your comment on speed limits, I totally endorse that again, just the idea that people need to go 40 instead of 30. It's so much less safe for anybody who isn't in the automobile.
Yeah.
But the thing that I initially raised my hand about is just with bike racks, they're in a lot of places, but they're almost kind of, again, like the bike lane symbolic in the sense that they're like, oh, here's a 6-inch curb and here's a bike rack on top of it.
Where's the bike go? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just like, and you look at it and it's, not to say it's hostile infrastructure, but it is saying we did this because we had to, instead of being able to roll up to it. You know, so it's like, to me, a bike rack that is designed to actually have people use it will be at the bicycle level, and you won't have to schlep it up over a curb. And that's gonna be especially detrimental for somebody, like if you have a, I don't know, like one of those baby carts on the back, or you're more elderly and maybe the lifting the bike is more difficult over the curb. So thinking about just like when we ask people to install bike racks at locations in city businesses and things like, you know, not city businesses, city buildings and things like that. Considering like those small bits of design would be fabulous. You know, is it accessible to all users to use this bike rack? You know, rather than just somebody who can schlep a bike up over the curb.
Hannah?
Oh, you spoke to this actually a little bit already, but I was just gonna share that when I was working in North Amherst and looking at extending a bike lane from Route 9 to North Amherst specifically, UMass at one point had done a study about an old cinder road that ran from their campus up through North Amherst off-road, but kind of between I think it was North Pleasant and 116. So they have some old plans that now are like way outdated, but the land is still there. And I guess it had got kind of, you know, pushed to the side 20 years ago, but was still a really comprehensive look at that. And then just some interesting things about 116 and its original planning that I think would be salient, but probably more to the folks in Sunderland who are working on it. So I won't bore everyone. It's actually kind of interesting, but another time.
Okay.
I know we're a bit past time. Are there any last questions or comments? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for your time, yeah. Thanks for your
That's a
feedback.
parting.
Make me want to get on my
Another-
bike.
Yeah, it's feeling like that outside. Oh, and anyone who came in late, and I'm just gonna leave them because we have a lot of them. Just sort of a info card on the safe passing law, the signs that you're seeing that motorists must give 4 feet to pass, is sort of an explainer on what that means for drivers and bikers.
Vulnerable road user.
Plenty
It's
of
so hard in
those.
Massachusetts when our roads are like literally as
Yeah, you
wide
don't
as
have
this
4
table.
feet, yeah.
Maybe that's why we need the off-road bike.
I feel like we just need a road where people can absolutely blast their cars, but like have it be nowhere near, like I would love to just
Call
cruise down
91.
Main Street. Yeah, because we just have a highway downtown, but then like close Main Street off, like, I don't know. Just put a car bridge above, you know, or below. Let's go, big dig.
And we can
We have to maintain it in 60 years.
So maybe we can get back to this when the plan comes out or something like this, because there's obviously a lot of interest.
Yeah.
The next agenda item, thank you. Next agenda item is the March meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Any comments, discussion on the minutes? I have 2 things myself. One is that John's last name was incorrect, first letter. It was Garrett, not Barrett.
Sounds good too.
And the other thing is in item 3, as far as the clerk, it has that Mary nominated Eric, but then the board has to approve it, obviously. And I think we didn't do a formal vote. We just, I think, approved by acclamation. So there should be a mention of that Mary didn't deem him clerk. Thanks. Sid, all board, committee members in favor of that with those changes? Aye. Hannah, you're a yes on that? I can. Thank you. 2 yeses. Okay. It's more than unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next item is the 2024 master plan recommendations review. Part 1.
Let me just take a pause for a second. I wanted to say hi to Travis and see if you were here specifically for we should just carry on then. Okay. So then I need to share my screen.
Or do you want me to share? Is it gonna be the same?
It is.
You want,
So
oh, here, just plug in your computer.
how far will that be? I was thinking
Move
maybe.
it to
Oh,
wherever you
perfect.
need.
I was thinking I would do that doesn't. So
There's, no, it doesn't go in.
No. Needs some sort of little adapter thing in the bottom.
No, I do not have an adapter thing.
You have to.
Plugs into yours.
Look
It
at
plugs into mine though, so if Mary, you
You can
can,
do that. You can just share it and then I'll take notes separately on my own screen. That's fine.
Okay, or I can take notes on this. Well, you tell me, I'll do whatever you would like.
Let's see. We're asking you to do a lot for a non-member.
You're making me feel like I'm asking about you. Okay.
Like a draft.
Also, I'm learning.
Oh, wow, look at
Oh,
that.
look at that.
That was like.
Nice, well done.
Can you see that, Hannah? I don't think she can. I don't think it's actually shared. I think it's only shared to the people that are.
She's giving thumbs up.
Oh, no,
Now she's got it.
Okay.
and just to point out, if this would be for anyone watching the meeting at a later time, we would want things to be visible, so.
Yeah.
And let me just provide a tiny bit of context. So here we are. The Conway School submitted their final plan for printing, and we, as Sustainable Greenfield Implementation Committee, are going to be both reviewing that plan, but most specifically, we're going to be reviewing the recommendations. Now, our core team did some of that, but because of the speed by which the Conway School had to finish that project, I do feel like there are missing pieces. And we can, as far as I'm concerned, and I think we've talked about this before, we can keep treating these master plan chapters as sort of living documents. And I think that's a good idea just in general anyway, right? Instead of waiting for 10 years to add something that comes around and seems important. But for right now, what we're trying to do is to go through the existing recommendations, and it's not a vast number. It's not like the original plan. You'll see that the format is scaled down a little bit, I think, to be a little bit easier to take in at a glance. And so we are simply going to walk through these recommendations over the next couple of meetings and get everybody's input, make sure we're not missing any action items. Now's a good time to add them, making sure that we didn't get something wrong in terms of, oh, well, we already did that. We don't think we did, but we may have. So that's kind of what our goal is, to firm up these recommendations. And then at some point, I think we hand it off to the planning board to seek endorsement, approval.
So it's a planning board document.
Okay,
So the planning board would need to officially approve it.
okay,
Yeah, so that's the only entity that really needs to approve.
Okay.
That's the plan,
okay.
officially, yeah.
And then just as a side note, Eric and I worked a little bit. I can't remember if you two saw a little, I put together a little story map formatted.
No, I didn't see that.
And the goal is to be able to provide a nicely visual way that the public can interact with the information. So we'll see a little summary of whatever the topic is, whether it's, downtown or whatever it is, and then they'll see the recommendations and action items. So as soon as we get this document kind of ready to go, or maybe we should wait until after the planning board approves it, then we can move forward with
Nice.
making it available.
I'll call myself for a second. And one specific thing is, as I was going through these, I saw some things from the planning point of view that I thought, did we change that, or did we just talk about changing it?
Okay.
It's like, so what I was going to suggest is that rather than do it all in this committee, I'll try to set aside a time with Eric and just the two of us go over the list that is specific to that and see, like, stuff about lid and things like that, low impact development, and about the some of the housing zoning change. We've made some of those changes have happened, but I'm not sure exactly.
He weighed in on all these.
Okay,
It's possible, again, because of, how fast we had to
Sure.
make all this
Yeah.
happen, we may have missed some things. So that's always good to have another look at it.
Yeah, I just wanted to spare the committee doing all that, and we can do it on the side.
Can we just get a reminder of how much time we have?
Yeah, so it depends on if you want to take 25 minutes, we would have about 20 more minutes, but it depends on how with the other items you want to, if you want to flex those. So if we take the full 25 for this, then we would have 30 minutes left rather than the 35 for the next. But we don't have other members of the public other than Travis here, so
Public comment.
yeah, so public comment. I assume be
All right, well, let's aim for the 25 minutes. I don't think.
very good.
Yeah.
We have about 20 minutes.
Because we've just been talking for 5.
Got it. Sounds good. Okay, well, I'm glad Hannah's here because these are downtown related, so I knew that you would be excited to weigh in on these, but just in general. Does somebody want to read these aloud, or how do we want to guide ourselves through this so we're all on the same page here? A reader, anyone?
If you would like to, please.
I'm happy to as the
Go for it.
non-committee member, sure. Okay, you want me to read the whole thing or just the implementation action
I
or
would say start with the
start at the
goal
top and
and
work
then
my
the
way down?
strategy. et
Okay.
cetera. Yeah.
Land use one, this is the goal, cultivate a lively, attractive and accessible downtown environment. Get a pause so we can weigh in on each item or I'll keep going and
I
then.
think you can keep-
Okay, land use 1.1. This is the first strategy, promote development and redevelopment in the downtown area to encourage a livelier downtown and help curb the loss of open space. And the two implementation actions under this are investigate whether an infill development ordinance and or adaptive reuse overlay district could make it easier to redevelop vacant and underused spaces in non-conforming lots. And then provide inspirational public education on planned development using form-based codes or other mechanisms to help Greenfield residents envision the full spectrum of development possibilities for their community. We want to talk about those before?
Yes, I think
Going?
we should.
I don't quite know what the second one means.
Nancy, do you want to explain that one? That one's yours.
Yeah, that is mine. Thank you. So, my experience is that when you go to the general public and sort of ask for their input on what they want, if they've never seen anything other than the town of Greenfield, it's hard for people to imagine exactly. So, and when we did our master plan before, we talked about, well, there was that issue that we didn't have any inspirational examples of what other communities have done, how they did it, how it looks. And then you end up with, resistance because they don't really, because they're not excited about it.
Right. What's the phrase form-based?
No,
purpose?
Yeah, I wish that would go away.
Do you know what?
What does that mean?
That's there's several different approaches to codes. Our code expert is not here.
Do we mean building code?
Form-based, okay, go ahead.
My understanding is it's that you look at how you want downtown to look.
Okay.
Sort of like have a larger vision of what the form would be and have that guide the as opposed to the current system of zoning. So that-
This is impossible or that.
yeah, look at what the bigger vision is and try to move towards that bigger vision is my understanding of that.
Strategically versus tactically, kind of.
Let me give an example
Yeah.
of what I noted form-based code to be, which is you might look at let's use downtown as an example, and many of the buildings on a block, say, are all set back the same distance from the street. And then somebody comes in and they go to build a building and it's not set back at the same distance, and it has other attributes that make it kind of stick out as a sore thumb,
Mm.
like a sore thumb. So the idea with form-based code is to get more consistency with how those buildings may be constructed and appear. But I feel like we don't have enough. Yes.
No, sorry, go, I was answering.
I don't feel like we should necessarily include the specifics of form-based code for whatever reason that kept coming up, but I don't think that we need to include that.
The reason I keep bringing it up is, well, and actually one of the people on the Conway team that was something they got personally interested in.
Yes,
is-
but they didn't really know.
So it wasn't just me. But it's that idea of thinking through what you want and putting that on the table as opposed to just constantly making codes that are sort of more reactive. It just seems like there's some positive to that.
Is this like the language that would be in the plan when it's like, and I just feel like if we want this to be more accessible to the general public, like I consider myself fairly intelligent and like somewhat
hear this kind of jargon, but like both of those things, honestly, I'm like, what is that? Like if I'm reading that, it's just like swimming around in my brain. Like, I don't know, is there a way to put that in more like layman's terms if we're gonna publish that, or even to like a link to, or have like have a glossary of terms or something for people who are new to this kind of thing, so that they can understand some of the stuff?
I love the notion of a link. I was just gonna say, though, I think there is some specifics to form-based code that would be good to include that language if that's a type of thing that we want. Like, these are also instructions for the departments.
Yeah.
So if we want Eric to consider that, I think that language is important.
Yeah, like even just like linking to like
Sure.
this is
I
what
can do that.
form-based, if people like
Totally.
care to, have more. Cause it sounds interesting. I never heard of that
Yeah.
term.
So it's, a form-based code could do something like, so for downtown, we have a lot of 19th century, 3-4 story buildings. Is a form-based code something where like, we want to see more of these buildings? And so that's the kind of thing that would be the only thing permitted perhaps, or something like that.
You're looking at me, I'll just say, I don't really understand it that much. And my understanding is that when it is brought up before to Eric, and I know you've asked him about this, and I don't know if he weighed in on this particular item, but he has said he didn't think it would be that applicable
Oh, has he?
to a committee of this size. That was my understanding. I don't want to too much speak for him, but I know he's not been, yeah, we should do that, kind of reaction.
We adopted
Yeah,
it in
what
Northampton.
he's shared with me in the past is that's for larger communities.
Right.
And then I've sent to him, well, but look at this community, it's the same size as we are or smaller, and they're doing it.
Okay.
And look how it's, coming. And so I haven't been that's as far as the conversation goes. It always gets stopped at that point. So,
I think maybe we should decide as a committee whether we think this is a relevant action item to.
maybe it's to explore or ask the planning department to explore the possibilities of it or
I would suggest we learn a bit more about it and get Eric's input rather than fall out too long.
Okay.
You had a comment, Thompson?
Well, just for my comments moving on from this, and just to note for the folks that haven't worked on this newer existing column is useful as we're talking about these.
Yeah,
And
right.
existing is coming directly from the 2014 plan.
Correct.
So just in the lens that you're looking at that, it's really
Mhm.
more of, have we already accomplished this?
Right.
That's continuing to work on.
Anna's got her hand.
Oh, please, thank you. Anna?
Thank you. Yeah, just really quickly, I think if we're feeling caught up in form-based code, which can be a really long process, I do think the thing in this suggestion that is salient and worth keeping is really engaging public education and input around what we want downtown especially to look like, because I think that's something that where you can do a lot of education and it can be fun. The word inspirational is interesting to me in this context, but I like it too. But like before we even get to like form-based code, zoning, all the things, like talking about design guidelines, talking about how we envision this downtown, even just the question of whether we're a town or a city is something that there's a lot of disagreement about. So I do think that a point like this in there is really worthwhile, even if it doesn't have the sort of extent of the jargon that could be added later when we get kind of down to the brass tacks of its application. But the public part, I think, is really important.
I'll quickly offer a development example that might be relevant, something like this. When the Rite Aid came in, I wasn't involved in this at all, but the original plan had the parking lot in the front and the store at the back. And then that was through the planning process that was moved up to near, the street. So it was more accessible for pedestrians. That would be the kind of thing maybe as far as standards for a community or something like that. Just one thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about what you just described, Hannah, that's what, so that process needs to happen. And then how you implement it, whether it's through code or form-based code, because it may be a technicality,
Right.
but that bigger vision thing is what I understand the form-based code does. So if you don't want to use that word, that's fine, but as long as you do that exercise, I can be happy with it. And then
Exactly.
figure out
Yeah.
how you're gonna, yeah.
Okay, so as I'm taking notes, I'm splitting these off now. I'm making a note just to investigate whether or not form-based code is applicable or useful for Greenfield. That's not a public thing to decide, really. It's for the planning board and Eric and others. And then I'll wordsmith the inspirational piece of it so that that remains for public engagement, but we take the tech speak out of there.
We want to, based on Jonah's input going forward, we want to focus particularly on the new strategies.
Well, the question with the existing one is if they should still be in there. So it could be quick of just like, oh, that's happened or it hasn't. And
Code on the.
Well, we've done that to some extent, but we may have missed. So, yeah.
Right, yeah.
And this means not started. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
You want me to do some more reading or do you want to?
Are there any other action items that should fall underneath this strategy of promoting development and redevelopment in downtown?
The things that I know is going, like, there's a bunch of old commercial spaces on the upper stories of some of these buildings. I know reuse is in the second one, right? No, is it in the first one? Yeah, adaptive reuse.
Mhm.
How do we make that easier? You know, I think that's, I don't know, I think this is a great idea to keep in there just because that would be a great thing to see happen. You know, people live in those buildings rather than sitting vacant.
I think there's another action item in here somewhere that might touch on that, but I'm making a note just in case. Okay. Let's go on to number 2.
All right, strategy number 2, increase the functionality of existing community gathering spaces and create new gathering spaces where possible. Action item 1, work to ensure good snow and ice removal for safe and universal access to sidewalks, parking meters, and stores. Do you want to discuss each one as I go through, or you want me to go through them all?
That was an existing item. I personally feel like it should stay on there.
I agree.
Yep.
Number 2, work with area businesses to revisit configurations of Court Square that encourage events and gathering.
Well, the mayor just made a decision, so
Breaking my heart.
I know.
And this is a
Her too.
new item.
Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, we're talking about revisiting, so it's never, you know,
What does?
The mayor decided to make it so it's a car only thing again.
except for special.
Specific.
Right, but
events.
it's basically status quo antebellum, you know, which is,
I would have liked to have seen a middle ground that she could
Yeah.
have maybe done weekends, it's closed.
or even bollards, you know,
Or
again, the width of
time,
it could
or
be
time of
changed.
day or something.
Well, I'll suggest this, I mean, this idea was the star recommendation of the 2003 downtown master plan. And this would, you know, we're going a decade or more forward. We'll have different mayors or mayor in the interim. So if this seems like something to continue to have percolate in consideration
Mhm.
going forward, I think it makes sense to keep it in there, even though it's been,
Mhm.
you know, an immediate decision made for the time being. So.
Could I just offer too, I mean, with Amy sitting here, I feel like there needs to be some big ideas, because just closing it and then having it be vacant for, you know, day
Yep.
after day after day, to me, that was not something that was particularly attractive for our downtown either. And I don't feel as though necessarily there's the capacity for the existing folks working for the city to be doing programming, for instance.
I mean, I certainly don't think there's the capacity for us to, as a city employees, put on a full calendar of use. But I do think it's good to leave it on here because I think things change. A great proposal that we haven't thought of could come forward that will change people's ideas. And I think importantly, with the Main Street redesign coming up, that will also change the nature of downtown in that area. And so maybe there's something that will dovetail with that could come out of a conversation about it.
Is there an additional outdoor area in Greenfield that could serve a similar purpose that's not downtown, like right off Main Street? Like, is there a parking lot somewhere? Like, I know, like,
There are parking lots.
because like in East Hampton, for example, like Food Truck Fridays, like it's normally just a parking lot, and then like one day a week, it's like, whoa, like that people turn out for that. Like, and even if it's accessible by a bike trail or something else, like, I mean, because I wouldn't want to my car in metered parking to go to something like, is there somewhere else that's just unused that could serve that
There's
purpose?
loads of parking. Again, it's not like events are beating down my door and I don't have a place to put them.
Right.
I also,
Early.
we didn't hear the mayor say that we will never open it. She said
Yeah.
we'll open it for special events. So
Yeah.
That's right.
if I have a special week-long event, I expect I would go to the mayor and she would be
Yeah.
open to that. So I don't think we should be looking for I mean, we could, I guess, but I don't think that looking for parking lots or whatever.
Yeah,
we could-
I mean,
No, I
think
guess that's the next one,
And
more
I'm
the
just gonna say
outdoor,
the
just
night,
like
yeah.
outdoor spaces, like it not necessarily for,
Yep.
it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of outdoor gathering
Mhm.
spaces.
So it sounds like from a plan point of view, like you said, the third one, more outdoor dining spaces and food trucks. We should keep that in
Yeah.
there. And then the nuts and bolts of how that would happen by having that in there would be worked on.
Do either
More
Hannah
breweries.
or Amy have any ideas about do you want anything more specific in here or on this particular action item? Or does that cover it for you?
I think Hannah and I probably have 800 specific ideas. Putting them into this plan. I'm not sure I do.
Okay.
It's just a heads up, we have about 5 minutes left, just
Oh,
time
boy.
Oh my.
check.
Anna, did you have something?
No, just to underscore, it's a personnel thing as opposed to a opportunity thing at this
Done.
point.
What does that mean?
Just the people power or someone in a role to be a real driver of event
Yes.
organization, I think comes before the spaces. And so I was not surprised or totally disappointed that the permanent shutdown was not happening for the reason that you said, Mary, that it just sort of, it's not necessary yet. And I think building the demand and
Yeah.
having periods where it's shut down and really lively, it'll self-fulfill personally.
I like those words you just said, building demand. Maybe that could get worked
Mhm.
into that second action item.
Yeah,
To
totally.
revisit configurations and build demand, whatever the words are.
Build demand for more events and gatherings downtown.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
John?
And just really echoing what you guys said, and what you said as well, Hannah, it was a good idea killed by poor implementation.
Yeah.
And that was really hard to see, again, watching people look, oh, there's nobody here. And it's like, because there's a couple of crappy chairs like scattered on the right side of it and they never move. It's just, and I don't need to dwell on it, but whenever we try to implement something, doing it right the first time, I think is a way to build, I know it's a later agenda item, how do we build buy-in? And so really, really being careful before we try something that's a change, that people hate more than change is the way things are, and so yeah.
Well, I feel like that's actually a perfect segue into the last implementation action item in this, which is encouraging cooperation between the town and businesses to transform underutilized areas such as alleys, entrances, and parking lots into welcoming environments, courts, and
Mhm.
plays. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was thinking, versus like using the space that's so or like, people, like just
Right.
find another random.
Well, or even with Court Square, I think had there been more outreach to businesses and partnerships and those sorts of collaborations and cooperation to transform Court Square or any other space,
Right.
it would have been a different experience. Easy to say in hindsight, but
I like all these, I think all these actions are.
So Mary, we're about at time. We've gotten through 2 items. Should we move on? Should
Let's do
we?
one more.
One more. Oh, very good. Okay.
okay, strategy number 3, I'm gonna talk fast, clean up, repair, and beautify vacant storefronts. Item number 1, provide more funding from CDBG programs or redo grants to the facade improvement program to aid building owners in making facade improvements. And item 2, work with local and/or Crossroads cultural councils to award funds to artists for storefront improvements for willing property and/or business owners.
Yeah, I have a
Yes,
comment
please.
on that. We've talked about, like, what do you do with vacant storefronts? And I would like to see something where maybe the planning board or something comes up with a plan on saying, that there's some kind of rule about how long a storefront can be vacant. I mean, that they have to do something with it and maybe have some kind of even a stick, a fine for people who don't comply with that, so that there's some financial hurtness if they just let their buildings sit there and be a mess.
And tolls perhaps coming to a city council near you at some point,
Yeah.
not too distant future.
Yeah, there's definitely plenty of conversation around that issue.
Yeah.
I don't know if this just fell away or what, but at one point there was a recommendation or an action item around having the Board of Health use the state sanitary code to enforce issues with buildings that are simply deteriorating and becoming a public health or safety hazard. It's hard to I just did a search for Board of Health and I didn't see it in here, so I feel like maybe that vanished, but I would like to keep that on unless we decided that was a bad idea.
No, I think it
I
should
think
stay on. I would
it's a
just
good
say that it definitely happens, at least certainly with respect to residential properties. Because it's our department with the Board of Health.
Would it make sense to add in Nancy's proposed stick into this plan? Into one of these recommendations, like having a fine for vacant storefronts kind of thing?
Clarification. Are you talking about vacant storefronts that are in disrepair? Or are you talking about that they're forced to put a business in there? I'm not sure what you mean.
No, I'm talking about, let's say, the old Country Jeweler building.
Yeah,
Okay, it's a good example. It's been vacant for I don't know how long. It's plastered with all kinds of posters that people have put up.
Right.
It looks like a piece of shit.
so you're talking about upkeep.
So yeah, I mean, it's like, if they're not gonna, if it's gonna be vacant, then they have to do something to make it attractive in some way.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's putting a big mural inside, on the inside part of the window
Gotcha.
so that people can't see in and it looks nice or whatever. I'm not talking, I mean, obviously, if a brick is about ready to fall off, or that's a whole different thing. That's a safety issue.
No, but you said if they stay vacant. I mean,
Yeah,
but
So-
a nice looking one would still be vacant. It would just be
Correct.
not an eyesore.
correct.
Would
Okay.
other businesses pay to have a window to advertise in?
Maybe, that wasn't the question.
There's one
Thrown off.
downtown that has attempted to do that. They have a sign in their window saying, this
Well, but they
space
want,
is
like,
for,
$50 or something.
well, right, you can use my window and do advertising. So, but I've never seen anybody take advantage of it.
What I've seen in some towns that do the stick is they also have a carrot and they'll say if your property is vacant, you pay X, but if you're willing to put art or, talk to us and we'll pair you with an artist or whatever, then that will waive the fee.
Yeah, another example is that place on Federal Street that has Jersey bears around it for I don't know how many years and has grass growing. I mean, it's like the guy just bought it and then put up Jersey bears. I mean,
Across from Walgreens?
yeah,
Yeah. It's listed as being owned by Florence Bank.
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
just saying, I
Yeah.
think that's inappropriate. I think we need to figure out how to
Yeah.
make that not happen.
And
Just a structural thing on this item, it says, the strategy says vacant storefronts, and then the second implementation item refers to property and or business owners. If we're talking about a business owner, it's not a vacant storefront. Yeah. So,
So maybe instead of,
But you're
maybe it
assuming
should
that,
just be storefronts and not vacant.
you're assuming that all businesses are active?
well, it's a little confusing to me. It's a business owner, what would it be?
Well, and item one, the CDBG funding, the facade improvements we do for existing businesses slash.
So
property
maybe what
owners.
you're talking about is if you use the word buildings, building owners, would that be more generic and not,
I think it's the word vacant in the strategy.
Correct.
okay?
If we're only talking about vacant storefronts, then the implementation action should only be about vacant.
I think it-
storefronts.
I agree.
Should we get rid of vacant then?
could be vacant and blighted.
I think just get rid of vacant because sometimes there are businesses who aren't blighted, but you need some better signage or,
I think people get a tax write-off for having vacant buildings is the crux of a lot of this. Like I know, and that's a federal level issue.
Right.
But I think vacant should be mentioned in one of the implementation actions of both, because that is an issue. But whenever I hear about beautifying a vacant, I said, let's get a business in there. You know, that's- It's like, when they have a river cleanup, I'm saying, stop people from throwing the stuff in the river. But anyway, I digress. And I'm facilitating. So, are we done with that item, Mary? And do you want to move on to the
Do
next
you have,
agenda
did
item?
you pose something?
I've made notes. One is going to be something to do with the Board of Health enforcing state
Okay.
sanitary code.
Mhm.
And the other is going to be something to do with the stick and the carrot that you said. So the stick
Okay,
paying a fee and the carrot being that they
thank you.
do something. They
I look forward to
incorporate.
the final language.
I look forward to it.
Tony had the
Are you
last
gonna
thought?
make-
No, it's,
I-
it's for the next item.
I'm gonna write it.
I do.
I would suggest that maybe I just plant a seed for this conversation for the next item. It'd be nice to have Marlo and Eric here, and also it'd be nice to have more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So maybe I could just plant a seed and take 1 minute and we'll move on. Does that sound good, Mary?
Uh-huh. I don't know exactly what you said.
For this next
Agenda item.
to, engage volunteers to help with downtown maintenance. Is that what you're talking about?
Or they.
You're talking about the item on the
The
agenda.
agenda.
Oh, I think we could have Marlo for the downtown
Oh,
maintenance
yeah.
conversation too.
No, for the agenda. I
Sorry.
thought we were moving on to the
I was
next
so
agenda
confident.
point. And I think,
I think we are.
And-
To be clear, the next agenda item on our agenda is strategy for ensuring city projects incorporate SCIC recommendations.
right,
Are
which
we
was
done
my,
with the land use
Yes,
part?
we are.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so that agenda item was my suggestion, and I feel like it'd be great to have Marlo, Eric
Okay.
here. And I
You're
think,
suggesting we table that item.
well, just plant a quick seed would be just
Okay.
what it's about. So the quick seed is that it just, in my 2 years here, it feels like we've learned about a lot of projects afterwards. Like Marlo will come and say like, oh, here's all these great projects we did. We didn't have an opportunity to provide input prior. And the small project that has sparked my particular interest is this bocce court that was being built currently next to Beacon Field, which just, it's a great little project that we could have done we could have made a model. It could have been a nice little model for green infrastructure and a few other things. It's very like affordable option. But there just wasn't an option for that kind of input. So I just want us to think about how we could be involved in earlier stages of making sure that projects think about the master plan. And just
And it might be good to invite Christie on that one. Or that.
for that particular one, although I don't want to
Sure.
dive into the bocce court.
No, but I'm
Yeah.
thinking many
Yeah.
projects come out of her office
Right.
that would probably have a similar overlap.
You're talking about proactive.
Yeah, just thinking about, how we, just the role of this committee really, and how we could be more impactful in helping make sure the master plan is brought to the fore more. That's
So
my-
we'll put that on the next agenda for more discussion, yes?
That'd be great.
Okay.
It'd be interesting if projects had to like write up a quick, like, this is the action, this addresses like this part of the
Right.
master plan, like when they go to,
We actually frequently do, or like in grant
Mhm,
applications,
mhm.
I reference the master plan all the time. I was gonna ask, in the past, have any departments provided like periodic update reports of like, here's stuff going on in our department that relates to the master plan? Not that I'm looking to create more work for a department head, but I wonder if there was some like routine check-in.
Well, Marlo and Carol now again, definitely do that, but I feel like it's more
After the fact.
just completed as opposed to we're thinking about.
Yeah.
Which would be a much more useful phase for us
Yeah.
to discuss. Yeah.
Okay. We'll hit this with more time next time at our next meeting. Okay.
Okay, so the next agenda item, if we're moving on, is formation of SGIC Open Space Task Force.
Yeah, so just a quick background. Joni, do you want to give a background on just our meeting that we had with the mayor a few days ago?
Sure, yeah. Well, so for those of you that have spent your time refreshing the master plan, reading through it, you'll recognize that creating an open space plan was in the 2014 plan. It's also, again, in our updated plan.
Open Space Committee.
Committee.
What did I say? Plan. Open space, right. So also in our open space and recreation plan, it also says to create a committee. So we have two plans that say we should create an open space committee. The previous two mayors have not been in favor due to the fact that it's hard to fill existing committee. So there's concern about that. Eric spoke with our new mayor and she expressed a similar concern. So we proposed the idea of a subcommittee of SGIC, which is something that we can just do. And so the mayor supports that idea and here's Mary
Okay.
to do that.
So I'm going to just do a quick, I'll just read what I came up with here. So under Article 8, Section 1, in the city's charter, under Sustainable Greenfield, under our rules and regulations, it states that the chair may appoint such task forces from time to time as may be voted by the committee. So because of that, I would like to appoint an open space task force. And the purpose of it would be to protect critical natural resources in Greenfield by mapping, analyzing, and prioritizing land and water resources for stewardship and protection, and to make priority recommendations to the mayor's office and advocate for funding for such priority projects. That is just some language I came up with. We will refine that as part of the process of having this task force. So the task force will be made up of 3 Sustainable Greenfield members, and then hopefully 1 Conservation Commission member and 1 Recreation Commission member. And that was at the request of the mayor to bring in the Rec Commission. So I would like to ask Jonah if he has a comment.
Well, one other just additional role of it is, we have an open space and recreation plan, which is great. And we have a very active recreation staff member and commission, but we don't have the same on the conservation side. We have a part-time conservation agent. And we have a conservation commission who is overwhelmed with wetlands permitting for the most part, but is trying to do more. So a big part of this committee would also be working to implement the OSRP, particularly around the conservation focused components of it, but as a whole, which is why we want conservation and rec to be members of it.
Other comments, questions?
Fabulous idea.
Okay.
I'll call myself. Did you say who from rec and from conservation were you talking about?
Yeah,
But was it from the commission or the rec
we don't.
commission or the?
1 each.
We had discussed.
No, but I'm just asking, are we talking Christie? Was it,
No.
We were gonna,
someone from the Recreation Commission?
we were gonna reach out to them.
That's what I just
I
wanted.
thought it would be would not be Christie, but that would be a
That's what I want to clarify.
commission member
Thank you.
thought, yeah.
So is that a motion?
Yeah, we could start with that motion.
I'll second.
I'll third it.
Further, we have a motion and seconded. Do we have further discussion?
Oh, Carol joined us.
Carol,
Timing. We're doing our 1 vote.
back in the house. I like that.
Welcome back.
Hi, Carol.
Carol?
I thank you. Oh,
There's a
I
motion on the,
talking about if you're looking for a vote, I don't know.
this one's gonna be an easy one for you to, so.
Did you just come on or did you hear anything about the?
Nothing.
Okay,
Carol, can I ask you, I'll just jump in as facilitator, because some people might be watching this later. Could you just please introduce yourself?
Later or now?
Now would be great. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. So I'm Carol Collins. I am the Energy and Sustainability Director. I've been in the city for a long time with a short hiatus and now I'm back. And right in the saddle. And good to see you all. And I know there's some new faces and I'm looking forward to hearing more. I watched last month's meeting, so I'm trying to
Nice.
get up to speed.
awesome.
All right, thank you. So there has been there's a motion on the table. It's been seconded to create a SGIC open space task force. There would be include 3 members of this committee, plus a member of the Rec Commission and the Conservation Commission. So that's the motion.
Great.
Is there any further discussion, please?
One thing I'll just add is I have run this by the chair of the Conservation Commission. I have not yet run it by Recreation. So the chair of the Conservation Commission has voiced his support, but we have not, and he's also present, and I haven't, I have not yet reached out to Recreation.
And I just want to double check. Now, this would be obviously a public entity, so it would fall under the same open meeting law as far as
Subject to all the same.
being
rules.
posted,
Yes.
being open, and being hybrid these
Correct.
days.
Yep.
So, okay, just wanted to check on that. All right, if there's no further discussion, then Carol, please.
Like I said, I'm jumping right back in.
Please.
So just to follow up on what Jonah said, I would, I did follow this conversation last month and, agree it's a great thing. But I would also support getting Christie's, or, the rec director's support and buy-in, before moving forward. If that's can be amended, or at least I just want to say that.
Jonah?
I support the concept, but I do disagree because I think recreation is very strongly represented in our city. I think regardless of their support, that we should do it. And that we should have a conservation focus. Obviously, we would still look at recreation, but I think even if Christie opposed it, I think that I would still recommend that we do it.
I would offer a kind of a in between is that it's always good not to surprise somebody.
Yes.
And so to just give a respectful heads up to her, not necessarily saying, is this okay?
Right.
But we're moving forward with this. We just want to make sure you knew about it.
Yeah,
Kind of thing.
absolutely.
Spirit I was intending, if that's okay.
Okay.
I feel like I want, it would be nice for her to be aware of this before it's like, oh, and we did this.
Mm,
Great.
I
Thanks,
agree.
Carol. Yes, ma'am.
A piece of context that we neglected to mention is that when we met with the mayor, Christie was actually just leaving her office, and the mayor asked that we make sure that, or that Christie was already aware that this was going to
Oh,
be happening.
okay.
So she is aware of it, but we will
We haven't
nonetheless.
actually spoken with her, just,
Correct.
yeah, so indirectly she's.
Correct. And the mayor specifically asked for involvement from the rec commission. So,
Yeah, I think the rec commission, definitely you should, that they'll be excited about it, is what I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it would be good to check in with them again, just, surprises are never.
Perfect.
Hannah, did you want to say something? You would raise your hand?
Yeah, I was wondering if Jonah or Mary, you could offer a little more context as to kind of what the Open Space Commission does. The Concom stuff I get, but as far as rec is the idea that it would also sort of advise on and or organize events in open spaces and like different activations.
No, yeah, so the
Okay.
recreation department would lead that stuff still. It's really, so we have an open space and recreation plan from 2021 that Christie is doing a great job of going through and checking off stuff all the time from the recreation side. There's conservation components of that we don't really have the capacity at the moment to focus on. We don't have an entity that's able to give it the time it's needed. So that's,
More than
but that plan is sort of the guiding force for what this committee would be looking at. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
And I just want to say, I think this is a very creative way to get this ball rolling.
Yeah, check off something on the master plan. It's been there for a while.
Right. No, but I mean, to not have it be a separate standing, which would need the mayor's approval and the mayor's support. That's great. If there's no further, Carol.
I'm sorry, but
No.
one more thing I just want to make, it didn't come up in the last meeting, but again, just to make people aware, I've always looked at the recreation's website, which Christie has a standalone website where she maintains all of the city-owned properties, all of the information, which has been a great resource for me in the past. And so I will say, resources are always, it's tough, but I feel like there's been a lot already kind of established that again, I just feel like this is a perfect way to complement that and continue with the work, and that is really the spirit that I was intending. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, all committee members in favor of the motion? Aye. I see a fuzzy hand. Yes, Carol, very good. It's unanimous. All right, very good.
so there is a part two to this. I know we're getting close on time, but I also wanted to move forward with, I don't know if the right word is appointing.
I think so.
Okay, appointing the three members of the task force. We had already sort of discussed this at the last meeting, but I'd like to appoint Jonah as the chair of the task force. And then Francoise, who will be attending meetings starting next month, who is a, I don't know, wetland scientist. I mean, she has a background in conservation science as one of the members, and then myself as the third member, if that's appropriate, or if somebody else has to do that.
No, I think you as chair would do appointment for a subcommittee
Okay.
of this committee. I think
But
that's,
does someone else need to appoint
no.
Cheryl?
That's right.
Mary.
Whatever. her-
I'm currently appointing myself to represent the planning board here, for example, so I
Uh-huh.
don't need to check with anybody else.
Okay, perfect. So
Okay.
move.
Well, it sounds like by deciding to have the subcommittee, you are, as chair of this committee, allowed to do the appointment. So
Okay.
I don't think we need to do any
And
further.
she just suggested three people, so.
No, I'm just saying she doesn't
You don't
need,
need a motion.
Oh, you don't need a motion.
she has the power to appoint.
Just.
She doesn't need our
Okay.
approval to appoint.
Thank you.
Sure.
I like the sound.
That was easy.
No,
I guess that's nice to hear. And does anyone have any questions or concerns?
no,
Thanks for doing it.
appreciation,
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for
wonderful.
suggesting it, working it through, figuring out the details. Jonah, thank you for being volunteering to be the chair.
All right, so now we are going on to public comment. If you will.
Do you mind if I?
Oh, please, yes, yes.
The
No, it's
microphone
also,
picks it up.
yeah, exactly, yeah, yeah.
Hello,
If you could just introduce yourself and all that.
Travis Drury, Spring Terrace in Greenfield. I'm not here representing any committee or anything. I was just here just because your meetings have overlapped with other meetings that I've been in, and I haven't really been able to attend these, so just wanted to check it out. I did think of a few things while you were going through things that I just wanted to comment on. One of them was in the recommendations you were looking at, land use 1.2 on the good snow and ice removal. I just wanted to comment that I'm a water quality scientist, and I can just imagine people dumping tons and tons of salt down, and our streams and groundwater have had increasing chloride contents since road salt has been used, and it's only going up and up and up. So just wanted to, maybe if there could be some language about using salt wisely, or, if there's so much salt that the sidewalk is white, like that's too much salt. There are other strategies like using brine. You could mix water and salt and spray it on sidewalks, and then the snow just like wipes right off, and it's really easy, and it uses way less salt. So just wanted to bring up their other strategies there.
Thank you.
Also, I support the idea of fines for vacant storefronts. Just want to throw in my 2 cents there. And then on your open space committee, I guess one thought I had was that it could be useful to have members of the public on that committee as well, if they're, people who are really enthusiastic about it. That could be added on at some point if you want. And then also, when you made the motion, it was that the open space committee would make recommendations to the mayor. And I think it would also be good if you said that they were making recommendations to the Conservation Commission as well, since all of the conservation land is managed by the Conservation Commission. The committee could make recommendations to the Conservation Commission about strategies, and then the Conservation Commission could approve, different uses of the land or whatever. So.
Can I just clarify with that?
Yes.
So are you saying we should go through the com and not directly through the mayor, or it just depends on whether it's like a land thing versus?
Yeah, I think it would depend on what it is,
Okay.
because conservation land, the Conservation Commission has a lot of authority to do things, whether the mayor approves of it or
Uh-huh,
not.
got it.
So, including, if they had the money, including purchasing land, for conservation purposes, And there's a conservation trust fund that the Conservation Commission has, that once money's in there, the Conservation Commission can use that, and it doesn't require any approval from city council or the mayor towards, you know, trail maintenance or putting up signs or, you know, purchasing land or anything like that. So that's where I was just thinking, you know, if you made those recommendations to the Conservation Commission, the Conservation Commission could implement them without any other approval required. So
Excellent.
that's all I have.
That was huge.
Just thought I'd throw that
A
in.
lot, man. That-
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Excellent. Yes.
So I was going to bring up one other thing, which we don't have really time for discussion for, but I'll just mention it. You may have read in the paper about Stone Ridge Lane.
Mhm.
Stone Ridge Lane. There's a parcel, so in Rocky Mountain, there's town-owned land, and then at the northern edge of it, there's a parcel that the town owns, but is not designated as Conservation Commission or Recreation. It's just owned by the city, which means it's not protected. We could choose to sell it or put up a roller coaster there, whatever we want to do. And so the Conservation Commission is making a request to the mayor to designate the land of the Conservation Commission. Christie is also lobbying the mayor to give it to Recreation. And so, which was newer information. Prior to that information, I was going to come to us to say, can we write a letter of support to the mayor to give it to the Conservation Commission? It has become more complicated now because Recreation Department is asking for it as well. So we don't have time for an in-depth discussion on it, but I am in favor of it going to the Conservation Commission because it abuts other Conservation Commission land. And we wouldn't really want to see it developed for anything more active than the trail system that's there, which is what the Conservation Commission is the recreation that would be included under the Conservation Commission's management of it. So to me, that makes better sense. But I think for us to write a letter of support, we would have to discuss that a little bit more. And we don't have time for that.
I'll call myself, you know, the timeframe of this decision, would it be able to be brought back to our meeting next month, or would that be a done deal at that point?
I guess the mayor is looking to talk with the chair of the Conservation Commission and the Recreation Director together to talk it through in the next couple of weeks, but they don't have a time set. So maybe we'll learn more and see if the decision has been made before our next meeting or not. If it hasn't, maybe we can discuss it at our next meeting.
Well, I wish we did this time because
Yeah, we only have-
I don't know.
Yeah, Carol?
What
you
the
had a-
advantages
Oh, sorry.
are.
I was just wondering, does anyone know, is that the fenced-in area that's been used as storage from DPW for the past several years?
No, there was a foreclosure and then the city got the
Okay.
land.
Yep, remember,
Yeah.
yep, thanks.
What's up for the noise? Okay. is there-
CPC meeting in here in
2 minutes.
Okay. And are there any, if we're done with that, are there any announcements? Or we,
Can I just say one? Oh,
Please.
sorry. I wanted to say one other thing about the rec concom question. I think if we're going to have a discussion, I think it would be very helpful to know what both proposals are. So I don't know if there's access to that or.
We have a letter from the Conservation Commission, but I think Recreation, it's just been a conversation. I don't think there's a written document, but we can ask folks.
I'm curious what the downside is of having the rec department energy as opposed to the fund.
It makes it possible for it to be developed more.
Have
Is
more trails, you mean?
No, non-trail addition of recreation. So
Oh,
that would be,
right.
Water slide.
it could be a water slide. It could be,
I see.
there could be pickleball courts.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so seems like we could write a support letter.
On the Connecticut.
I disagree.
And it's on.
I don't feel like-
I think we'd have to discuss a little more before.
I would hate to see that.
Well, we can personally write
yep,
letters.
Yeah,
I would want to see where it is we're talking about and get
Yeah, yeah.
background information, so.
we don't, yeah. Not a big
Yeah, I
time.
would
Thank you.
definitely consult that area for.
All right.
Any last announcements?
Just at Arbor Day tomorrow noon at the DPW, Wells Street location. They're planting a tree, come and join us for 20 minutes.
There a motion to adjourn?
I wanted to talk about
Please.
the meeting,
Oh.
next meeting.
Right.
Fourth Thursday of the month. Does this 4 o'clock time work again for everyone who is present?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
raise your hand if it's a yes.
Carol, work for you? Hannah, work for you?
I have to double check, but I'm sure I can make it work.
Excellent.
Eric?
Thank you.
23rd of May, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's good. Beauty.
I don't read the list.
Is,
It's a nice-
so all set to go for adjournment? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, thank you. All in favor? All right,
I
we're adjourned.